The YouTube Shorts algorithm just changed. I found a great video that breaks it down. So we're going to turn that video into visuals. Not just one, I'm talking carousels, launch decks, checklists, visualizations, and so much more. All using Alphana's new visual cards and our updated personalization flow. So let's see what it creates, and then I'm going to show you how you can actually make this your own. So I'm really excited. The team has worked really hard on delivering a lot of these updates, and I think you all will love what you see as well. What I'm showing you right now is Alphana. One of the things that many of you, if you haven't seen this yet, but we launched our new Quick Create flow. This right here kind of highlights a lot of the key things that people are using Alphana for. We have over 100 different templates and cards and content pieces that you can create in Alphana, but this kind of helps to simplify into a couple key categories. If you want to start from scratch like you usually do, you can go ahead and hit that. But we have different templates like turning video into short clips. And now when you hover over this, it tells you which clips are found in each one of these. Turning video into social posts. So for example, in here, if I wanted to create reels, captions, carousel images, threads, text posts, LinkedIn series, you can do that. Then you've got turning videos into tips and lessons. This is for everyone who's trying to learn. So you got a video, you want to extract some of the insights. This will give you advice, tips, lessons learned, core beliefs, motivational takeaways. And last but not least, but being able to turn your video into a blog post. This will literally give you a nice featured image as well as a blog post that you could put up on your website. So really excited about this. It kind of saves you a lot of time, kind of lets you see a high level of different things that you can take and create and turn video into. And so I'm really excited about this update. Now, the first thing that I want to do is I want to be able to show you how we could turn a video into a whole set of visuals. And as I mentioned earlier, the YouTube algorithm changed. So we are going to leverage a video that extracts so many insights about this YouTube algorithm, and we're going to generate visuals from them, right? Hopefully we're going to see some visual content that we can use as if this was your video and you wanted to post it online, or you'll see this as an example to learn from. So you can create these images, see what it says in a visual way, and take it away from there. And so without further ado, let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is actually going to start from scratch. So I'm going to click this big create, the start from scratch button here. Now, when this pops open, I get to see my entire library of content cards that I can create. And again, we've got hundreds in here. But the first thing I want to do right now is I actually want to select a video from my library. So, I already uploaded this video to speed up the process. So I'm going to go to my library and I'm going to find the video that talks about these key YouTube Shorts algorithm updates. And right now I'm going to click this create button. So I don't have to re-upload the video, retranscribe it, and do all that work, right? I could just reuse a video that I've already uploaded inside of my library, saving me a ton of time. Now, I made a template for myself that combines a series of visual cards that I made so that we can actually use it inside of this demo. Now, this template, I don't have it available for everyone, but each individual card that I'll show you in here, you can have access to. But I did this because number one, this consumes a ton of credits. So I want to make sure everyone has enough credits to do what they do. So I'm going to go ahead and select Visuals Toolkit that I saved in my library. And I'm going to click Next. Now here is what I wanted to show you. So this is also brand new. If you haven't been in Alphana this week, we recently rolled this out. It's our new personalization workflow. So you saw that I was able to select a template. I was able to reuse a video from my existing library. And now we can customize the project before we generate the content. So we give you access to a few things. Now, if you're writing a lot of text content, things for your blog, newsletter, a LinkedIn post, courses, lessons, you could customize the tone. So right now we have it defaulted to conversational. You could use something like friendly, professional, straightforward, playful, or other, right? And you could fill in the blank. Now, what's great is that if I click on conversational, I could actually edit this. This is a text box. You don't have to rely on the options that we provide. We just make a couple quick ones that we see people using. But if you have your own way, you can insert in here paragraph of text if you're trying to give it instructions. And what's great is it tells you here the exact prompt that we're going to send to the LLM. So I'm going to say, write in a conversational tone, make it sound friendly and human. I'm just making up an example, right? So you could customize it or select one of our pre-selected options. The second one is reading level, right? We want to make sure this is accessible to a wide audience. So we default it to a 6th grade reading level. But at the same time, you can personalize that choice, right? It all depends on who your audience is and how you want to speak to them and what resonates well with them. So if you need this to be at a high school level, college, a doctorate, or simply you don't want to use one of these, again, you could just customize it, right? And fill in the blank or write whatever it is that you want, right? Write like XYZ, right? You could just put in whatever you want. I'll keep it at 6th grade. This is very widely accessible, especially if you're producing content to put online. Definitely recommend it. So we're going to stick with 6th grade for this one right now. All right. What's up next? The next one is target audience, right? So who are you writing this content for, right? Are you writing it for other creators, for marketers, for founders, musicians, students? Like, who is your target audience that you're trying to target and that you want this content to be personalized for? Because what this will do is it'll help tailor some of the content to write for this audience. Like, for example, instead of just writing something generic, it might say, hey, founders, this one's for you, right? If you're targeting founders. And then it'll change the terminology of like how to grow your startup and, you know, what to do when with equity, right? There's different things that founders care about. That's much different than a marketer, which is much different than a musician and much different than a student. And so by guiding our AI to be able to write to the target audience that you're trying to reach, this will help you to personalize that. So, you know, I'll just put in here for marketers for my sake. By the way, one tip that I have in here is, right, you don't have to go generic as marketers, right? You could say B2B marketers at SaaS companies, right? Like your target audience or SaaS startups, right? Your target audience. So write for a B2B marketer at, sorry, this is like spell check. All right, at a SaaS startup. So these are the different things that you could tailor, right? You could go very specific. Or for example, if you're in e-commerce, you could say, you know, write for dads who don't have time to shop. You know, write for pregnant moms who live in Los Angeles, right? You could go as specific as possible and as niche down as possible for your content when you're writing for this audience. So don't be afraid to use it. Don't be afraid to go very specific. And then last but not least, you could choose the output language, okay? Most of the time, it's going to write in the language of the source content, right? You put in a English video, most likely the content's going to come back in English. You put it in French, it'll try to come back in French, unless your custom instructions say otherwise. This just helps to really enforce the language that you're trying to write in, because you might be trying to take a Spanish video, but you want it in English because that's the content that you're going to be talking about to your audience. So go ahead and select that. Now, last but not least, the one that I'll pull up here is for additional instructions, right? This is an opportunity to put things about your brand, do's and don'ts, colors. So don't be afraid to go very specific in terms of how you want content written, what instructions for it to follow, and all that good stuff, right? That piece is extremely important. If you know that you have a set brand colors for your company, go ahead and put that in there. So here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a couple examples. I'll show you one example, right? I'm going to put in here brand, okay? Brand, color, palette, and font, right? So if we're going to be generating images now, and you want those images to come out in certain colors that you have, okay? In this case, you could say primary soft pastel lavender, and you could put a color code. So if you know the color code for your brand, don't be afraid to include that. And the secondary muted orchid, pink, and it puts the color code for the type of pink that we see for the secondary color. And then lastly, it says paired with a clean, bold sans serif font in a deep charcoal, because maybe that's your brand and you want it to be clean, bold sans serif font in a deep charcoal. So this is an example of how you could customize before you create a project to insert a couple of these keywords. And of course, for those of you who are pros already in Alphana, you know that you can add all this information inside of your custom instructions. If you add that once, that means every project that you create will always use those instructions. But if you haven't, this is a good place as a reminder to make sure you're really enforcing to the AI that this is what you want, okay? So we've got this taken care of. We've personalized it. Now I'm using some pink and lavender colors. Everybody might have different colors, but I'm just going to throw this in here so we can see what it does and give it an example. I'm going to go ahead and hit next. I don't need to edit the transcript, so I'm going to hit no. And last but not least, I'm going to go ahead and hit generate in the bottom right corner. So we're going to let that run. And meanwhile, I'm going to top up my credits because this is going to consume a lot and I know I'm going to run out. You got any questions here? Have you played with this yet? So sometimes you're not sure about your audience. Well, I mean, you know, who are you selling to? Are you trying to sell a product? Is there something that you're selling? Or are you not selling anything right now, kind of to help narrow it down? Or do you have just a lot of different people that you potentially could sell to, and that kind of leads you to kind of have multiple audiences that you have in mind? That's right, silver assets. So, I mean, I guess you would narrow down like people who are into silver assets and PLR content, right? And are they mostly marketers? Are they mostly maybe founders because they're entrepreneurs and they're into that because they're going to invest in it or they're going to make money off of it? So like these things with target audience, all right, I just finished resetting my account. Hopefully that worked. These target audiences, you could riff with ChatGPT as an example. So if you go back and forth with ChatGPT, talking about what you do, like for example, silver assets and PLR content, you could help try to define what the target audience would be for that, right? And we also have a template inside of Alphana that helps to extract the target audience from a video. So for example, if you go onto YouTube and you find other videos that are doing well, they're pretty viral, and those videos are like, wow, this is actually what you do, what you talk about, and what you want your content to be about. You could input that video into Alphana and use the target audience toolkit. And I'll show you, right, before I go into this, just because we're on this topic, before the project finished generating. But if I come into templates and I scroll down, there's one that's called target audience toolkit. We rolled this out a couple weeks ago. This will literally pull out the pain points and turn those into content ideas. It'll extract the audience messaging framework and a target audience analysis. So it'll analyze that video to put together who the target audience is. And then you could use that target audience for the rest of your content, right? Because it gives you those ideas that you need. In this short time, I just want to show you all this content that got generated. I put in one video and look at the wealth of content. I'm going to walk you through these more, but just look at all these new visuals that I created. And they all have different purposes. But look at this. It's even pulling in some of the color codes that I put in my custom instructions. Some of these have their own instructions for colors, so of course it's a little bit different. But I mean, if you just look at the wall of content that we just created, this all happened in, what, 2 minutes, just in me kind of talking through this? So let's dive a little bit deeper into it, right? YouTube's algorithm changed. We're going to see what this came up with and what he's talking about with the YouTube algorithm now. So the first one that we did that we thought was an interesting one was we created something called presentation slides, or they could be used for carousels. So they got dual purpose. But let's say you have a video and you're trying to put together a presentation and you need some ideas, right? You could literally create ideas off of here, create a few slide examples so that you can then pop that into like a Google Slides or Canva or PowerPoint, depending on the tool that you use. Or you could use these yourself, or you could just insert them as images. But the intent behind this is to think about it as a presentation, to give you the high level concepts. So in here, let's see, thumbnails now matter more, right? Thumbnails drive engagement by sparking curiosity, make them visually compelling to stand out. You see, in the video, when he's talking about the YouTube algorithm, he talks about how YouTube thumbnails are probably at least 50, YouTube thumbnails and titles are like 50% of what's going to help drive people to your video, right? So another one, content gaps is a big opportunity. So identify what your audience wants, but can't find. Fill the gap to drive massive views. So you see, this is another opportunity when you think about YouTube Shorts and the strategy behind it that it's talking about, right? Like if you don't find enough content on YouTube about a certain topic that you're talking about, I guarantee you there's got to be thousands more or potentially more people who want that type of content. So you can now fill in that gap. That is going to be a big opportunity on YouTube, right? Here's another slide for this, right? Metrics for viral content, right? 75% retention and 100% watch time are key for videos under 30 seconds. And look at this. It even gave a nice little visual with the percentage sign and all that stuff, right? What does this mean? Okay. I don't know if you guys are familiar with what goes on YouTube and you think about the YouTube algorithm, but in this case, we're talking about YouTube Shorts. YouTube Shorts are usually 30 to 60 seconds long. Okay. What YouTube is looking at in the algorithm is they want to make sure that you are retaining the majority of the people who click to watch that video. Okay. So if 100 people go to watch that video, they want to make sure at least 75% of them stayed and watched 100% of the video. So think about that, right? And by the way, this is for a metric for like under 30 seconds. I'm using a minute because it's easier for the math. But just imagine you create a video. You want to make sure 75% of the people who went and watched your video, that they watched 100% of it. Now that's kind of crazy because if you ever look at analytics on what happens on YouTube, and I even see this on my YouTube channel, is not everybody watches till the end, or they come back another day and they watch the other half, right? Because I'm putting out a lot of long content. But when you think about a YouTube short, if you cannot retain a person for 30 seconds to watch the entire video, that video is probably not good enough for YouTube to go put that in front of a million other people, right? Because not that many people are watching all the way to the end. But they look at signals. If somebody comes to your video and they spend the entire 30 seconds and they watch your entire video, that's a good signal. And now they're going to boost that video in front of everybody else. So this is a presentation slide that was just created out of me putting in this one video as something that I could talk with you, but also a good visual to help educate us here. Last but not least, let's see the fourth slide that we see in here. So frequency drives success, right? Match your competitors' posting pace or exceed it for better engagement. This is a big one, guys, right? When it talks about frequency, it's like if your competitors are posting once a day, you need to post at least once a day or more in order to try to get more engagement. Okay. Again, quality is important, right? We just learned right before that people have to watch the entire video. So don't post every day of content that people are only going to watch for the first 5 seconds and then disappear. So that's not what we're saying here. Exactly what we're saying here is like, hey, if your competitors are posting every single day and you see them hitting X amount of engagement or views, but you're posting half of the amount of content that they are, you're setting yourself up. You're not going to beat them, right? If you want to beat them, you got to match that pace or do even better in order to get better engagement. So if they're posting once a day, do it. Now, if you're trying to be better than, let's say, Gary Vee, how many of you are familiar with Gary Vee? You need to post 97 times a day across all of your social networks and platforms. He posts over 97 pieces of content every single day across all his platforms. That's why it's so hard to beat that type of engagement on what he does on such a massive scale, as an example, right? But again, quality is super important. So the quantity part does not work as well if it's all bad. But going back to where we were, we took this video about the YouTube algorithm update and created 4 beautiful images. And by the way, these were the colors and the color palettes that I put inside of the visual. And if you look here, we created custom prompts for everything. And if you notice, we added the background color and the primary and the secondary right here. So you'll see the color codes that I added in my custom instructions are being used to create this visual. All right, let's look at the next one. So I don't know if you guys heard, but Apple announced their new operating system at their WWDC just a couple weeks ago. What is it, a week or two ago? And so with that, we got inspired. We're like, hey, can we create like an Apple style launch deck slide, right? I don't know if you guys are familiar with their visuals. They show like a nice black or white image with all the launch grid stuff. Now, this isn't perfect, but it was pretty cool to see what it could come up with. And I think for different videos, it comes up with things a little bit better than others. So you guys could experiment and test with it. So that's all this does, right? It puts together key highlights in a presentation style, black background with text to see how you can lay things out. It works probably better for like product videos. So if you're launching a new product, something in tech or anything like that, you'll see some of the visuals even come out even better than what you see here. But I mean, look at this, right? This gives you insights on one page, right? Algorithm prioritizes interest-based content, hook the viewers in the first 3 seconds. Like guys, I've told you this before. When you're thinking about your hooks, the first 3 seconds is the most important part of your video. You want to make sure that you nail that down, the first 3 seconds of that clip, right? Here's another one. 75% watch rate for virality, leveraging trending sounds, post daily to build momentum, buy on competitors with tools, tell a story with a hook and payoff, engage niche communities. So this is kind of like Apple style influence. Again, I think this could have done a better job. I've used it before and I'll show you more examples, but you know, this is a great way to kind of highlight a couple things on a page. All right, that video. Here's another idea for visuals that you could create from any video or content. So I took the YouTube algorithm update and I was like, hey, I want you to put together a wall of insights, right? And this is what it came up with. All right, let's take a look. All right, so wall of insights. Now, a couple things you'll notice, right? You've got the colors with the sticky notes, the yellow tone and all that. That's because the prompt in the AI card isn't referencing my custom instructions, okay? But if you wanted this color palette to fit more with your brand, you can easily come back in here and customize the prompt before generating this content. But in this case, because it's kind of like a wall of insights, we're thinking sticky notes, the yellows and those colors. It makes sense for this particular one, but you could always change that. Okay. Always keep that in mind. But here you go. It kind of put together a couple of the insights from the video into like this, again, wall of insights with arrows, shows you how everything's interconnected. And then look, your end goal, viral metrics, right? Here's another style, right? Looking at the wall of insights, different colors, spy on your competitors, make it snackable. Look at this one. This one's pretty cool. It kind of uses that cork board texture style, like pins if you're putting something on there. And then last but not least, right? This feels like what? Like a mind map kind of thing, right? But here you go, right? Customers of stories, algorithm no interest. I mean, these are key insights if you're going to put it together a YouTube short, right? You want to make sure, number one, customers love stories. So if you can drive them in by telling a story and hook them in, perfect. Solve a real problem for the user. The algorithm really knows interests, right? So your video is going to get matched up with others that are interested in the type of content that you're making. You want it optimized for mobile. That's absolutely important. Everybody's streaming and watching video content on their phones. If you see gaps in the market, high volume, that wins. Engaging content matters. You want to be able to track those metrics. There's no point in putting out content if you're not matching it. So these wall of insights help you to kind of get a high level idea on what's going on with YouTube Shorts. Let's look at the next visual that we did, right? This is great. Again, this could be for social media content. This is great if you're a coach or a teacher, an instructor, and you're trying to teach people things from a video, okay? This works for so many different use cases, even for presentation and talks. This one's called do's and don'ts, okay? And if you see in my sidebar, I actually have 3 versions of do's and don'ts. They're all going to do almost the same thing. We just have a simpler visualization, which is like a clean white or light background layout. And then we have a bold version. And then we did a 16:9 versus square. So this is just to kind of show the versatility. But again, this is the 16:9, this is the square, and in this one you'll see the bold style, completely different. I'm going to go clean because these are pretty much in trend when you think about having clean and simplicity. So these could be used, again, individually as posts, or they could be used as carousels. So in this case, what it's going to do is create a background that tells you the do's and don'ts, all extracted from the insights of the video. So I took this video from YouTube and we're going to see what it told us to do and not to do. Okay. So first up, do, use engaging thumbnails that spark curiosity. Identify and fill content gaps and post consistently based on audience appetite. Perfect. So it just told me the 3 things that I need to do, but the 3 things you don't do. Don't ignore thumbnail design. Don't post random topics with no audience interest. And don't overlook competitor trends. And so these are the content creation do's and don'ts for success. So this is one example. The second example, again, a little bit different layout, but it comes into other aspects, right? Do analyze competitor performance, focus on high interest topics, optimize video length for retention, and then don't copy content without adding value, ignore audience engagement metrics, and don't post infrequently or inconsistently. Okay. So these are just key practices for growing a YouTube channel. And then again, it just gives you more versions of it. So you get to choose the style that you like. And if you like one of these styles more than another, like let's say you like this comment bubble up here with the chart, you could copy and paste this prompt, right? Or click the copy button, and you can create a new card in Alphana to create that visual. So, if I come down here on a card, I could create the plus button, or I could come up here and add a card, and I could just say an AI image, and I could just paste the prompt in here and then make the changes that I want in order to generate it. Because here I'm saying create a simple visual with a white background. I could say with a black background. Flat minimal style and clean lines. I want a green check mark with do's and don'ts. Tools like Alphana, just to tweak it a little bit, right? Maintain high average view generation. So I'm just going to use this and see how it comes out, which is great. I'm going to make it high quality and I'll make it landscape. But now I'm going to create a visualization by just taking the prompt that I like the most, and I'm going to hit generate, and I just tweaked the 2 things that I want. So the beauty with Alphana is that you could turn any video into all these assets, but also at the same time, once you have the asset in here, you can now generate more content, right? Because we're essentially giving you the Lego blocks. These are all building blocks that you can put on your page, right? We call them cards, but they let you create your own workflow, right? You don't have to create all this content I did for you. You have the opportunity to be able to customize what that workflow looks like and then drop that content in here for it to generate for you live. just generated do's and don'ts. You saw that I pulled the one that I wanted and I asked for it to be in a black background. So what does it look like? And here you go. Completely different, right? So just the opportunity. Probably black doesn't work as well in this use case, but it looks good. It did the style. But again, we could do any color palette that we want, just like what I showed you earlier. So this is a great one, do's and don'ts visual. This is the 16:9 aspect ratio. If I scroll down, we did another version that gives you the square ratio. So this is great also for carousels, or great for Instagram, LinkedIn, a lot of different places. So here you could see different styles of do's and don'ts. If I keep going, here's another one. This is like bold font style. So now this is like using bold colors, different things. This one's talking about maximizing YouTube shorts. So it talks about the thumbnails, content gaps, perfect. All right, this one got cropped. Sometimes AI does that. Just got to reprompt it again. Let's see. YouTube shorts, do's and don'ts for viral success. And then it shows you the two here. So these are 3 examples of great cards you can use. Turn any video, YouTube, or podcast, turn them into these do's and don'ts visuals. Very useful. The next one we got is what we call a journey visual. These types of visualizations kind of guide the user through a journey or a path to success or a path to get to something. And it tries to come up with visuals that to help show you what that looks like. So I'm going to pull up a couple examples, and here's one. It kind of did this like split screen type layout. So social media from manual discovery to interest media to tailored content, right? So this is actually a big thing that he was talking about inside of the video, right? If you think about what's happening with these platforms, YouTube is not a social media platform, okay? And guess what? Instagram and TikTok, they are not social media platforms anymore, okay? They've gone from social media to interest media companies, okay? Because you no longer have to have followers in order for your content to resonate and to go viral to get in front of other people. Okay, these platforms like Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, they know their customers, their users best, and they're going to analyze your content and they're going to put it in front of the people that are interested in that content. That's why it's not just about social media. It's not about me having 100 friends or followers on Instagram anymore. Okay, it's more of, am I producing content that another individual or a million others are going to find extremely interesting, that they're going to want to watch it. And you put that content online and that can go viral. And that's what's happening here, right? That journey from these social media platforms, transitioning from social media now to interest media companies. Look at the second one that came up with. This looks like almost like a poster, like a movie poster or something you could put up on a wall. So it's not about the gear, it's about the idea. Look at that, quality versus interest. And this is a nice visualization. You've got the bridge. You're kind of bridging from like all this crazy equipment and gear all the way to the idea, right? So again, these are what we call journey visuals. They're trying to visualize a journey from one point to the other. And in this case, it's going from, everybody trying to do high quality gear towards something that's interest. By the way, I have to clarify 2 things when we talk about quality, okay? There's quality in the sense of like the camera and the equipment and everything that you use. You don't need all this fancy equipment, okay? All of us have phones, hopefully. You could take your phone, put it up, and you could record yourself very easily outside, inside your house, by the sofa, go to the beach, it doesn't matter, and talk and provide value to someone, right? You don't need all the fancy equipment. You don't need the studio setup. You don't need lighting in the background, and you don't need all this other stuff, okay? Obviously, make sure people can see you, but you don't need that kind of quality, okay? When I talk about quality and I say like you've got to do quality over quantity, I just mean the content, the insights, the education, the entertainment, whatever value that you're providing has to be high quality. It can't be BS that nobody is interested in, okay? So you could have the most rundown video that looks like it was shot, running down or whatever it is, but it could be very interesting for people and provide a lot of value to others, or even entertainment. Entertainment is value as well. So just keep that in mind when we talk about quality. All right, what's the third one? Look at this journey visualization, okay? Find the gap, fill the demand. You got content overload. And then at the bottom, find the gap, find the demand. Look, everyone, I'm just going to say it. AI sometimes could misspell things, but I would say about 95, 98% of the time the spelling's right. So you could ignore the spelling mistake here. Usually a regeneration will get this thing back to where it is. And then the last visualization, here's another journey, right? Climb the retention mountain, right? You're going from 100% watch time, 75% retention, viral success, right? If you want your content to go out there. Beautiful. So again, I want to remind everybody, all of these content cards are available in our AI card library, okay? So all this like journey ones that I've got, if I could just spell myself correctly. See, journey visual. We have that right there. So you could leverage this anytime that you want. Let's see. Perfect. Yeah, I have 2 different variations of it. Here's the second one. I'm going to pull this up and look at this completely different style, right? From social media to interest media. Kind of shows you the progress. Here's another one talking about the content gaps. Another one talking about thumbnails and YouTube success. By the way, I don't know if you noticed, but look how it's pulling in the color palettes that I described in the beginning. Last but not least, frequent and strategic content posting. So here it is. And again, this purplish color kind of pulls in from the colors that I inserted at the beginning as well. So what else can you do with visuals, all right, that are appearing in here? The next one is called checklist visuals, okay? This is an interesting one, right? This kind of outlines a checklist or tasks or things for you to follow, but it visualizes it for you. This is great content to put online, to send out to your community, to post in different groups. So here's one, and this is, okay, checklist, right? So if you want YouTube success with shorts, design and engaging thumbnails, focus on high interest topics, maintain 75% viewer retention, identify content gaps using analytics, and post at an audience appropriate frequency. So there's a beautiful visualization of a checklist, puts it like on an iPad or tablet type screen. Here's another one. This feels like a task kind of thing, right? Puts together like beautiful color palette. Here's another one where it puts these check marks like on a piece of paper as if it's laying on a table. And here we go. Content strategy plan shows you a series of different checklists. And this one's cool. It kind of uses a dimensional design kind of thing, like a digital UI card, right? Now, again, the beauty of it is that we provide the prompts for all of these. So if you like these and you want to create new ones, like you could see that we provide the prompts for how these images were made so that you could leverage them and tweak them to how you want them to be. Now, this is the same thing, checklist visual, but bold design. It's using different colors, right? Bold typography. This one's putting it on a clipboard, right? Here you got one on a phone, another clipboard, and here's a last one, digital checklist. And finally, the last visual that you'll see on here are to taking a lesson, right? So what are the lessons that we found in the video? Trying to create a simple visualization for it. These are a little bit different than the ones I showed you before. It kind of shows like one icon or focus point, and then it tells you what that is. Like find the gaps to ignite interest, from manual tuning to tailored feeds. This is pretty cool, kind of like the old school TV, right? Everything was manual. You had to tweak every little knob to get the channel and everything you want right. Versus now you got like these tailor feeds, playlists, and stuff like that on music, right? You can climb the ladder to content success and curiosity clicks. Kind of recap what we just did here. We took one video about YouTube Shorts. We learned a little bit more about the YouTube algorithm update. Thumbnails matter. 75% retention, super important. You want to get 100% watch time. We were able to create beautiful visualizations from it. Things from presentations to carousel slides to walls of insights. You're probably wondering like, what does this look like if it was a different video? And so I had already created another project. And so I'll show you quickly. This was based on one of my videos that we put out. And I'll just show you a couple examples, right? So if you look here at the presentation slides, you'll see the colors and the scheme completely different, right? Because I'm talking about different topics. And so this one's talking about AI, about prompt engineering, how clear prompts lead to better AI results. Like, look at this visual it did, right? It kind of shows like a blurry image of the city as a vague prompt versus what a clear prompt looks like. And it's because we're talking about specificity, how that transforms content from ignored to engaging. And so these are slides that were all created, right? Just look at these beautiful visuals. Look, it even put a AI person in there. So mastering prompts unlocks AI potential. Your results depend on clarity of your instructions. And then you get to see all this on a dashboard. So this is what it looks like. Here's an example with the Apple-like version. See, this one came out a little bit better than the one I showed you earlier. Kind of shows a lot of the features between it. And then more visuals. But again, what's great is that this adapts to the content that you upload. So every video, every podcast, every insight you put in here, it'll create a series of do's and don'ts, the journey maps, Like, you know, this one I liked, right? It kind of shows like do, create the detailed prompt. You see the person very happy, and then a vague prompt, right? You got a question mark, it's fuzzy, not as happy, right? So clarity and prompts lead to better results. So yeah, please drop into the chat, hit like if you're on YouTube. If you like what you're seeing so far, algorithm loves that. It helps us out a lot. You know, if these visuals are anything that you'd be using or you want to try out, just hit the like button. Tell me. That'd be fantastic. But yeah, this kind of helps to give you guidance on what that looks like. So I encourage everyone to leverage these new AI cards. These visuals just help really make things a lot better. Here's like the journey visual, right? Got a couple of good examples here, the checklists and the lessons. So you can see how they're just completely different, right? Versus what I showed you before. This kind of wraps it up for today's Insider Live. So I want to thank everybody for joining. Again, if you liked what you saw here today, if you see yourself creating a ton more content with these visuals, please hit the like button and please drop a comment. Tell me, what was a favorite visual that you see yourself using? Did this spark ideas for new content that you're able to extract and create from videos? I want you to drop a comment in there for me. And again, please hit like, comment. That really helps us out. I'm Sebastian Mora. I am the CEO and co-founder of Alphana. So if you guys need anything at all, you know who you can reach out to. I encourage everyone to drop into the community and show off a lot of the visuals that you're making inside of Alphana and take advantage now of our new create flow and the personalization settings. It just gives you a nice wealth of beautiful content that you could create to help you grow your business. I love you all. Thank you so much for your time, and I will see you next time. Bye.